Do you enjoy making things? Or maybe you don't enjoy spending that much money on expensive new clothing all the time. I know I don't, so I picked up the art of crochet in order to make interesting, nice hats that can allow me to express myself and my personality through a simple change in appearance. You can do countless things with crochet art. I know I have made dozens of hats, but many others have made bags, different pieces of clothing, and stuffed animals that they could make for themselves or for their friends as gifts. And I think it's a very versatile art that's very simple to pick up once you understand the key components. So today I wish to teach you the key components of crocheting, one simple hat that you can make, and one creative method of making a design in the hat. So come along with my journey as I teach you all of these things. So here I will run through the basics. This is a crochet hook, and mine is 6mm, though most of the ones I see on these online tutorials are 5 or 4.5mm. So if I were to crochet, I would recommend starting out with one of those. However, any size of crochet hook works. This is medium weight yellow yarn that I found in my closet, and I'm going to go through all the simple things that you'll need to know in order to complete our little project today. The first and most simple thing is that you are going to need to be able to make a chain. So to do a chain, or to start it anyways, you'll need to take your yarn and your crochet hook, and you're going to place your yarn, and you're going to yarn over once, yarn over again, pull that second yarn under the first yarn, and then you're going to want to yarn over again, which can be kind of tricky, and pull through that first yarn. So now you can tighten the end a little bit by pulling on it. Now you have started your first chain, or your first loop, and if you want to continue doing a chain, the chain one, you yarn over again, and you pull through that crochet hook. So basically you want to make sure that your string isn't very tight while you're trying to crochet, because if it is, you won't be able to crochet properly. It'll be too tight, and then later when you try to go back into these loops, your crochet hook will be too big, and you won't be able to slide back in there. So make sure you keep your tension moderately loose, but you don't want it too loose, because otherwise you'll have really big, stringy loops that don't end up looking very well. And I'm going to show you some other things that we can do when we're crocheting. So now that we have this line, single crochet, which is the most simple type of crochet that you can do. You stick your crochet hook in you pull through, yarn over and pull through, yarn over again, and pull through both of those stitches. The next stitch is a half double crochet. So you'll yarn over before sticking it in. You'll stick it into your loop. You'll yarn over again, pull that yarn through the first loop, yarn over again, and pull it through all 3 loops. The next crochet is a double crochet, and then we'll stop with the increasing height. So you'll first yarn over, stick your hook through the chain, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over again, pull through 2 of your loops, and then yarn over again and then pull through the last 2. So you can see that each crochet type increases in height by a little bit, and that is mostly what the difference is between them and each of the patterns. If I wanted to close this for some reason, I could stick my hook into the other end, yarn over, see about that yarn tension, yarn over, and pull through everything, and that is considered a slip stitch. And it's a very simple method of bringing things together that will be used very frequently. So if you don't like what you've done, you can just remove your hook and pull through, and unless the yarn gets stuck for some reason, you should be able to remove all of your progress. So magic circle is not something that I've gotten down completely, but you take 2 fingers and you wrap your yarn around once and then again, and you want to leave a decent amount of tail at the bottom. Now flip your hand over, insert your hook, and hook the second piece of yarn on your finger, pull it through. Now hook that first piece of yarn again with your hook and pull it through. This should result in a circle. You usually want it to be pretty bigger than that, but you can kind of pull on it to make it bigger, and now you have a magic circle. And with this, you are now able to crochet inside of it. And now I have this space that we can work off of. And so I'm going to double crochet into it. So I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to stick my hook through the hole, and then I'm going to yarn over again, pull my yarn back through this hole, and I'll yarn over again, pull through 2 of the loops, and 2 more. And now I've done my first stitch inside of a magic circle. This is going to be essential for later. Interesting, but what is the point in this? So now that you're here, I'm going to make this a little bigger so it doesn't undo itself. You can take the tail, once you're happy with the length of your chain that you did inside, you can take the tail and tighten it, and it'll create a little circle. And from this, you can build off of it outwards, or you could use it to make some sort of shape. Like this almost looks like a bee's wing. If you want to make a small little bumblebee, you can make 2. This is pretty much all you'll need to know for most basic patterns. In today's tutorial, you'll be learning how to make a simple bucket hat. I'll be using a 6.0mm crochet hook and some medium rainbow yarn that I found. So to start, it's really crucial that you know how to make this magic circle. It's definitely one of the most difficult parts about crocheting. And then you'll want to chain 3 times after making the circle to have it be sturdy and tall enough for your double crochets so that there's no bump. And then you'll end up double crocheting into the circle. This is something that when I was starting out I didn't understand at first, and that's okay. It just took a couple times practicing it and figuring out what was going on for me to figure it out. And crocheting is pretty complicated, so don't feel too bad if you don't get it right away. So you can choose how many times you decide to crochet inside of the circle. I did mine 10 to 12 times. However, you can make your base circle bigger or smaller depending on what you'd like. So as I finish up the circle, I pull the ends together using the tail from the beginning, and it should close nicely, but make sure to reorganize all the stitching that ends up bunching up a little too much so that it forms a proper circle. Otherwise, the base of your hat is going to be messed up and it might not look good further down the line. And lastly, you're going to want to do that slip stitch we learned about earlier to finish the first row, and every other row after it will be finished the same way. So the last stitch goes to the first stitch you made, and it creates that nice circle. Every row you'll chain 3 so that the double crochet isn't too short, and you can bring the tail through if you want a stitch marker to mark where you finished the previous row at. So that first row from the magic circle you want to double crochet into each of the stitches, and then double crochet again into the stitch, which is an increase. So for every stitch you make, you do it twice into the same stitch. So crocheting is a bit of a steep learning curve, but once you get it down, you can make pretty much anything that you want. And it's very nice to be able to make these things as gifts for people, or just for yourself. I made a lot of hats for myself during a time where I was very depressed, and now I can look back on those hats and feel joy knowing that I made something so nice for myself, and it makes me feel better about my appearance. So as we finish up the row, you're going to want to prepare to do another slip stitch at the end to bring both of the ends of the row together. And then for the next rows, you'll want to do the same thing, except for instead of increasing every single stitch, you will start to increase every other stitch for the next row, and then you'll add a skip to the increasing each consecutive row after that. So for example, you'll do 1 increase on the next row followed by 1 normal stitch, and the row after that you'll do 1 increase followed by 2 normal stitches in a pattern until you reach the end of the row. So I ended up doing 7 more rows, and I felt that that was a pretty good size for the top of my head, ending up being the size of my hand roughly. And now we'll decrease by 1 every stitch to make it come in on itself a little bit more for this next row. It's mostly just to make sure that the hat has a good curvature before we continue onwards, but I believe if you'd like, you could skip this step. But essentially you'll see that I just, instead of crocheting into the next spot, I'll crochet into the spot after that, which tightens up the hat quite a bit. So the rest of the hat is very simple. Once we near the end here, you'll see that we'll just end up double crocheting for the next couple of rows until we get our length of the hat that is desired. You can do as many rows as you'd like for here. So we're nearing the end of creating this hat. You don't really need to do anything after this, but at the end I'm going to add ruffles as a special detail to enhance the appearance of the hat. So this is my pretty much completed hat at a total of 17 rows right now after doing all the double crochets. I'll film a little bit of me wearing it so you can see what it's like having it on. Alright, so as you can see the hat is mostly completed. If anything I could stop right now and it'd be a perfectly fine hat, but I'm going to continue and add a couple more ruffles towards the bottom so it naturally is wavy without having kind of a weird shape at the bottom. But if you'd like to, you could just do what we learned earlier and tie this off by making another stitch and pulling through, and you'll have a finished bucket hat. So, to continue. So the ruffle design is actually incredibly simple. All you want to do is you want to do 6 increases into the first stitch, and then follow with 1 normal stitch throughout the row. So I'll be back once I finish that. Here's the hat with the ruffles. I'm going to add a couple more details off camera and give this to my grandmother. So here's the finished hat. I ended up turning it into an octopus using the magic circle and chain techniques that we learned earlier. So throughout this video, we've learned how crochet can be used, how to do crochet, how to make one basic project out of crochet, and how to make the project a little more interesting with some more advanced detail. Thank you. I hope you've learned a lot from this video, and even if you don't like to crochet, I hope you found it entertaining. Goodbye.